Welcome to the Ramon Magsaysay Center, Manila. For an orderly conduct of the program, the on-site audience are reminded of the following. Please observe silence during the program. Be respectful to the speakers, fellow participants, and staff. During the open forum, you may approach the microphone or write your question on the pieces of paper provided and give it to an usher. In case of a medical emergency, please approach any of the ushers. Should there be a need for an evacuation, please stay calm. All doors of the hall will be opened, and the ushers will facilitate an orderly evacuation if needed. For those seated on the stage and from rows 1 to 5, the door near the stage will be used. Rows 16 to 13 will use the door near the registration area.
Before we begin today's program, we would like to remind the audience of the following. The video and audio functions of our audience will be disabled during the lecture. For questions, clarifications, and/or comments, we encourage everyone to use the Q&A tab and the chat room in the Zoom webinar or the comment section in Facebook or YouTube. We will try to address as many relevant questions and comments during the session. Please be respectful in the chat room, Q&A tab, and comment section. Please follow the Ramon Magsaysay Award on our social media accounts in Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, and YouTube. For more information on the Ramon Magsaysay Award and this year's laureates, please visit our website at www.rmaward.asia. Thank you for joining us today. We will begin the program in a few minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today for today's lecture. Featuring the 2023 Ramon Magsaysay Awardee from India, Ravi, Kanan R. Our program is about to start. We request everyone to please take your seats. Again, we request everyone to observe silence. This afternoon, we have the pleasure of having one of the country's most respected broadcast journalists as our host. She's a renowned news anchor for ABS-CBN, the Philippines' largest network, with programs on Teleradio, Teleservisyo, and Radyo 630. She is also currently a patient access and government affairs manager for a global healthcare company. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Ms. Tina Marasigan.
All right, good afternoon everyone. Let me greet you in Filipino. Magandang tanghali po sa ating lahat. Of course, especially with our participants in flesh, we are celebrating each day that we have given the chance to be with each other and to be celebrating each other's presence and also having the stories of our inspiring speakers for today. Magandang hapon po, and we are also joined by our Zoom participants. We have about 900 plus audience joining us today online via Zoom, via Ramon Magsaysay Award Foundation website, and also via YouTube channel where we are also being covered live. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. We are live all over the world. We have participants from India, from the US, and in the different parts of the globe. And with immense pleasure, we extend a warm welcome to all of you as we listen and be inspired by the finale of the 2023 Ramon Magsaysay Transformative Leadership Institute Lecture Series featuring our 2023 Ramon Magsaysay Awardee from India, Mr. Ravi Kanan R. Palakpakan po natin siya. We are all very excited to hear, and not just to hear, but to be inspired by the works of Mr. Ravi, or of Dr. Ravi, and he will be sharing with us his transformative leadership and his life-changing journey as a medical practitioner. He has not only instilled a profound sense of greatness of spirit within his team, but also brought about a life-changing and positive impact on his patients and their families' lives. And today, he will go beyond that. He will instill the values to us here in the Philippines and in other parts of the globe. He will be joined later by a panel of experts as they share their take on Dr. Ravi's presentation. And after that, we will open the floor to questions from our audience, both from our audience here live and also coming from our online audience. And to formally start the last leg of our event, let us all welcome with a great warm of applause the President of the Ramon Magsaysay Award Foundation, none other than Miss Susan B. Afan. Hi, Miss Susan.
Thank you, Tina, my dearest kapamilya. It's so nice to see you here at the Ramon Magsaysay Center. Good afternoon to everyone. I am extremely pleased to welcome you all to the Ramon Magsaysay Center and be inspired and motivated by what Dr. Ravi Kanan will be sharing with us this afternoon. The RMTLI lecture series is one of the very exciting highlights of every Ramon Magsaysay Award Festival season. Throughout this lecture series, the public is given a one-of-a-kind opportunity and access to our Ramon Magsaysay laureates. It is a chance for us to learn firsthand about their unique leadership journeys and extraordinary works that encapsulates their greatness of spirit. Today, we have the pleasure and privilege to listen, to interact, and engage with one of Asia's heroes of holistic healthcare, 2023 Ramon Magsaysay Awardee, Dr. Ravi Kanan R. He's not only a good doctor, he's a great human being. And in the next 2 hours, we will all learn how he was able to show his selfless service to people and how his greatness of spirit inspires his team to be motivated and develop alternative approaches for holistic cancer care so that no one is left behind and that no family suffers treatment-induced poverty and grief. I am also delighted to share my excitement this afternoon along with our esteemed members of the Ramon Magsaysay Award Foundation Board of Trustees that are watching us online. But today, notably, we are privileged to have Mr. Ernesto D. Garilao, who will serve as our moderator, and in the audience today is another one of our Board of Trustees, Miss Emily Abrera. So Emily, say hello. Okay, there. So now let's turn our focus to the topic at hand. This afternoon is all about health and ensuring an inclusive healthcare ecosystem. Lifestyle diseases, including cancer, are often perceived as frightening and intimidating. However, it is crucial to recognize that these conditions are actually treatable, with early detection playing a pivotal role. Therefore, ensuring access to comprehensive and inclusive healthcare is of utmost importance so that these kinds of diseases are addressed. Cancer is, without a doubt, an incredibly daunting word, particularly for those who are economically disadvantaged. It is not only an example of a costly disease, but it is frequently associated with prohibitive expenses, which often creates a misconception that treatment is within reach only of the affluent, and that if you are poor, it's pretty much like a death sentence, and that you are most likely to just face the reality that you will just die without being treated. In a speech delivered by our beloved President Ramon Magsaysay in 1956, many of you were not even born yet, during the launching of the nationwide celebration of Medicine Week, and I quote, he said, "It is obvious but worthwhile repeating that rural health is essential to rural economic development. A healthy and vigorous populace is indispensable," end of quote. He underscores the significance of having a physically fit and robust population, highlighting that good health is in rural areas contributes not only to individual or community economic development, but also to a country's overall progress. President Magsaysay expressed his utmost desire to serve the poor and the marginalized, who are most of the time neglected. He further shared, and I quote, "The poor should be treated with the same enthusiasm as you treat the rich," which is a concrete example of what I call missionary zeal. This is the type of zeal which our country badly needs today, but seldom finds. What we have is abundance in mercenary zeal. Unfortunately, that was in 1956, and it still seems the same now in 2023. Today, it is both a privilege and an honor to introduce a very remarkable individual who, like our dear President Magsaysay, has dedicated his life to make a profound difference in the world of healthcare and to the lives of the people he has served. Ravi Kanan R. will enlighten us on his remarkable journey as he transformed the perspectives and mindsets of the people affected by cancer, guiding them away from feelings of suffering and being, having this victim mentality. Instead, he has empowered them and their families to embrace the various solutions and interventions available for holistic care. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us now welcome 2023 Ramon Magsaysay Awardee from India, Dr. Ravi Kanan R.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Mabuhay. Thank you. See, we are all not created equal. Some of us are born with abundance of wealth. Some of us have immense opportunities. But we are all born into privilege or less privileged backgrounds. And I very strongly believe that those of us who have been given in abundance more than our needs have been provided so in the trust that we will use what is needed for us and then use the remaining for those who don't have it. And that, I think, is what healthcare is all about. I work in an area in the northeast of India. Those of you who are familiar with the geography will know that Assam is a state in the northeast, and I work in the southern part of the northeast. I work for a hospital that was created by citizens of the region. There was 30 years ago, there was no cancer center there, and cancer incidence is high in the region because of a variety of reasons. And the lay people had to travel long distances, and they would often defer treatment. And so lay citizens got together, formed a cancer society, went door to door begging for resources, and they created a basic facility. And then the then director of the hospital, Dr. Chinmoy Chaudhary, he is still around. He visited a number of cancer centers. He spent time with us. I used to be working at the Cancer Institute in Chennai. He spent time with us in Chennai. And then he used to be in constant touch. And when I left the Cancer Institute, he called for some patient, and one thing led to the other. And one day, we found ourselves in Silchar. This was in 2007. And then, at that time, we didn't really realize what we were getting into. But we just went on a firefighting mode. We would have a problem, sort it out, create a solution, implement a process, and move on. And that is how we have grown organically. We did not have a master plan. We did not have a corpus that would help us plan and implement everything in a time-bound fashion. And we just grew organically. In the Northeast, like many other areas, there are issues with travel. It's an area where we are surrounded by hills. We live in a river valley, and we are surrounded by hills, and then there are forests, and people have to travel long distances. Transport is a problem. Awareness is a problem. Money is a problem. And these are problems common to many parts of the world, not peculiar to India alone. And then how do poor people cope with healthcare expenditure? Suddenly, somebody has a heart attack, somebody has a cancer. The first thing they will do is resort to distress sales. Whatever fixed and mobile assets they have, they will try and sell them off at throwaway prices. They will stop education of their kids almost immediately. They will borrow from various sources as exorbitant rates. They will, at the cost of their self-respect, beg from, people to provide them on charity. And then the easiest thing many of them will do is they will abstain from treatment. They will not go ahead and treat their sick ones. Often a very cruel decision that they are forced to make. When we went to Silchar, I used to work at the Cancer Institute, where we had a policy that anybody who comes for treatment must be treated no matter what the cost. And so we went with this mentality to Silchar, and we said we will give everybody low cost, no cost treatment, boarding, lodging, and so that should be fine. Over the years, now I'm able to articulate it in a defined fashion, but what we did was we actually proactively branded ourselves as pro-poor over a period of time. We adopted a variety of cost reduction strategies. We tried to reduce the waiting time for diagnosis and the waiting time to start treatment. And then over time, initially I was very skeptical about technology, but now over time we have realized that technology can be a great asset. Now, see, when we treat poor people, we have to earn their trust 10 out of 10 times. You cannot afford to slip even once. And so the way we dress, the way we talk, the way the hospital is created, it must be a simple facility, clean facility, but it must not be intimidating. Usual application for all of us. When we go out onto the street, we see an expensive looking hotel. Many of us will not enter it thinking, that this is not for us. We would prefer to go to a more modest looking hotel to have our lunch or dinner. The same applies for hospitals. If you create a hospital with fancy marble and fountains and paintings, it will intimidate poor people. And so our body language, the facade of the hospital, everything is important. No frill service. We cannot afford to pay for a secretary and a nurse and an inform. We cannot afford to have so many people, So many of my colleagues will willingly multitask. One of the most important decisions that we took was we will not have dual pricing. Many times well-wishers advise us, charge more from rich patients and use the excess of money to treat poor patients. But what we realize, if you use one facility to treat both the rich and the poor, eventually the rich will elbow out the poor. What will happen? Hospital has resource constraints, there are limited staff, so we will say the senior staff will see the patient who is paying. And then we will say the patient is paying, so there must not be any waiting list. We must say the patient is paying, so he must be operated by the senior doctor. So everything, because as a doctor, as a patient, I will feel justified. I am paying, I deserve more. As a doctor, I will justify it because this patient is paying more, and so I use this money to pay people who have less resources. And so over a period of time, the patient who is paying less will also start thinking, oh, these people are paying more. So it is okay, let them have the privileges. And so the system that was designed to treat poor people will slowly become rich focused without anybody on the ground realizing. And so that was one policy decision that we took. Then we worked hard to reduce hidden costs. We work hard to see that patients don't end up paying more than what is told to them. If you tell them the cost of treatment is 3,000 rupees and then if they end up having to pay 5,000 rupees, it's a breach of trust. It will break their trust in the system. And so with all this was an inadvertent audit we did for some other purpose. We found that in 2010, out of 100 patients who walked into the outpatient clinic, 58% of them never came back for a second visit. Out of the remaining 42 who initiated treatment, only 28% actually completed treatment. And that was a mind-boggling piece of information for us. All that we were doing was not changing anybody's lives. And so we had to quickly assess what was happening. And it did not come easily to us. Over 7-8 months, we realized most of our patients were working for daily wages. And so if they come to a cancer hospital and they spend 6 months for chemotherapy, 2 months for radiation, surgery, by the time their toxicity effects are gone, it is easily a year and a half. And for poor people who work for daily wages, coming again and again to a hospital is non-viable. And so they defer treatment. And so over a period of time, we put in place measures. Each time we instituted a measure, we would think that is a game changer, that is going to solve all the problems for us. But what we now realize is each measure led to a tiny bit of improvement. We started making sure everybody goes out with an appointment. And so we would call and tell them before the appointment that they have to come. And then once the day is over, one of my colleagues, he's an IT magician, he designed a software. So at the end of the day, when I finish our outpatient clinic, we are able to see who are the people who have not come. We get on the phone and motivate them to come back. We found they're all ad hoc laborers, and so we started providing ad hoc employment on campus. We started going to their homes for home visits. One of the best things that happened was home visits are primarily meant for people who are too sick to come to the hospital. But we also started visiting the homes of people who are not coming back for treatment in a bid to see what is happening. And then when we visit their homes, we know that poverty is genuine. See, at that point of time, we had an argument in the hospital, continuously ongoing argument that people have money, but they don't want to come to the hospital and spend it on health care. And so they misrepresent facts. When we started making home visits, firsthand we realized poverty is not imagined, it is a reality. And so quickly that argument that people are cheating us disappeared. Today, the whole hospital on the same page. We see a patient says they have no money, we get on with the job. How is it that we can help? And so one of the big things that yes, home visits helped improve compliance to treatment, but it also helped bring our whole team onto the same page. And then we got into a project with one of the government agencies that wanted to implement telemedicine in the Northeast. And so that project came to the local engineering college, and the engineering college chose us to be their partner in this project. And so we set up satellite centers in neighboring districts around us. So each of these activities improved care in the community, improved the number of people who were completing treatment. And then came COVID, and COVID it's a disaster all over the world. But the good thing that happened with us is we did not have to shut down the hospital for even one single day. The hospital functioned all through the year. Many of my colleagues were afflicted with COVID, but the good thing that happened was it had happened in batches, and so we had people taking off for care at different points of time, but the hospital's work never suffered. To the credit of my colleagues, we had about 100 patients on radiation, and many of the patients on radiation had COVID, and so we had created a ward separately for cancer patients with COVID. During the day, patients who did not have cancer had radiation. After the day's radiation was over, my staff would don protective gear. We would bring all patients who had COVID, finish their radiation, the area would be disinfected, and we would get ready for the treatment next day. So important thing, then we had floods, disastrous floods last year. The whole place was underwater. Again, we managed to keep the whole hospital functioning. My colleagues started an outpatient clinic in a small mound outside the hospital. We were actually able to deliver chemotherapy, do some palliative care. Many of the activity, only people who had to be brought into the hospital for either radiation therapy or surgery were ferried across and brought into the hospital and taken back. The important thing is, for us as an organization, the 10 out of 10 that we have to work to get patients' trust, no matter what the calamity, the hospital must be there to support them. The other very important thing that happened with us is what in India we have started what is called the National Cancer Grid. And today, about 300 odd organizations are part of the National Cancer Grid. And as part of the National Cancer Grid, we support each other, we exchange information, we help each other in training, we group negotiate for drugs. Chemotherapy agents and many other cancer treatment medicines are expensive. And so if I, as one organization, is to negotiate, we will have a certain price. But if we have 300 organizations negotiating, the price will automatically come down. And so that is the power of numbers, associating with colleagues, associating with other organizations engaged in similar work helps us do much better for our patients. We are now looking at creating satellites. We have 2 or 3 satellite centers that we established in 2014. Now we are on almost 5 more campuses. We are putting up a hospital in Dharmanagar, which is in the north of Tripura, an adjoining state. We have clinics in the surrounding villages where we are able to decentralize care. If patients have to spend 2,000 rupees, which is I don't know how many dollars. If they have to spend so much of money to come to the hospital every time for chemotherapy, it is a disaster, economic disaster. And so in these satellite centers, we are looking at screening patients, looking at following up patients, looking at delivering chemotherapy, delivering palliative care. So we're using a mixture of hospital, satellite clinics, and the third craze that we have currently is creating what we call our PEP centers. P for primary prevention, E for early detection, and P for palliative care. And these could be one man, one room affairs, and they can be created for as small as communities which have 50 families or 100 families, populations of 1,000, 1,500. Creating a clinic or a hospital for such small populations is never going to be doable. And so we're looking at creating PEP centers, plenty of them around, so they will take care of basic needs in the community, people whom we are treating and following up. Remember, having access to quality and inclusive health is a human right, and providing inclusive care is not an act of charity. So the other very important pillar of what we do is reducing waiting time. We don't want waiting lists anywhere. Our idea is if a patient walks into the hospital today, the same day the blood biochemistry, the patient is clinically examined, the blood biochemistry, X-ray, ECG is done. The next day morning, the patient has the endoscopy, biopsy, followed by the imaging. And when the patient comes back in the afternoon, the pathology report, the staging, the treatment plan is ready. Within 24 hours, we should be able to decide patient has cancer, not having cancer, if cancer, what is the stage, what is the goal of treatment, and when the patient comes to us, we should be able to tell them this is what we want to do for you. And for this, we have to practice a lot of task shifting. Tasks conventionally done by doctors can be done by technologists and nurses. Tasks conventionally done by qualified trained nurses can be done by nurses who are less qualified but who are trained for. And so practicing task shifting. So this is some data that I have that biopsies done by a doctor and biopsies done by a technologist, the outcomes are just the same. Complications are not more, and the diagnosis is achieved on almost the same number of patients. For pathology, when we take a biopsy, conventional pathology takes 2 or 3 days time. But we practice what is called frozen section technology, which is also available in many parts of the world, where you can have a report in as less as half an hour after the biopsy is taken. And all our pathology depends upon frozen section histopathology. Our record is, this was, I think, a couple of years ago. We are able to start out of 400 odd patients, we are able to start treatment within 7 days for more than 70-75% of patients. Technology is a great leveler. It can equalize the playing ground for the whole community. Technology, we need to innovate also. So we have what are called fume hoods in pathology. They are expensive equipment, but they protect the person who is doing the sectioning from the formalin fumes. We didn't have the money for it. One of my colleagues suggested, why don't we use a kitchen chimney? It is ultimately a suction machine that sucks out all the formalin fumes. So in place of a formal fume hood, we designed our own fume hood where we put a kitchen chimney, and it works just as fine. There's no smell of formalin, nobody is affected. And we were able to do that because somebody had a brainy idea of doing this for us. And then we are in a small town where we don't have intensivists, we don't have pulmonologists, we don't have many of the specialists that are seen in bigger towns. So we teamed up with a group of intensivists in Bangalore, which is about 1,500 or 1,800 kilometers from where we are. An agency in Israel helped us put up cameras all over the place, high definition cameras. Every patient's monitor is seen. The monitor readings are transcribed onto paper. Every patient is seen by the intensivist sitting in Bangalore, and we have a 24/7 coverage of the intensivist. You won't believe the impact it can have. We had a patient who underwent a major abdominal surgery. 3-4 days later, there was a problem. Patient was going to develop a cardiac arrest. The intensivist sitting in Bangalore knew this was happening, and before he could warn the nurse, the patient arrested. Code blue declared, patient revived, connected to a ventilator. 5-10 minutes later, patient had a second arrest. Patient was revived a second time. 5 days later, patient arrested a third time. Patient revived a third time. And then the patient went home, he's on follow-up. My colleagues see him in the OPD. We last saw him about a month ago, doing very well. Power of technology. During COVID, we learned the science and art of using Zoom platforms. We have, I don't know how many people attending today, but we learned this during COVID. During the COVID, as part of the National Cancer Grid, we used to have weekly meetings trying to teach everybody how to manage COVID, and so we are now extending this Zoom platform to serve local communities. Again, power of IT. We do a lot of community work, and a lot of paperwork is involved, data capture is involved. So we along with support from the Indian Council of Medical Research, we conducted community programs where we used tablets, ordinary small tablets, where the frontline workers will enter data. They don't know how to read, so a lot of data is captured as images, breast images, abdominal images, and so the data capture happens seamlessly, and we are able to see what is happening in the community. And so today, I am a great votary of using technology wherever we can be used. Human resources in small communities is always a problem. I'm sure in many parts of the Philippines also you have this problem. And we have to resort to a variety of techniques in order to raise human resources. It is easy for us to throw down the towel and say it cannot be done. Remember, just because we treat poor people does not mean we deliver poor quality care. That is fraud. When we treat poor or rich, everybody has the right to have the same quality of care, the same rights to good quality health care. And for that, be it human resources, be it equipment, be it technology, whatever needs to be done, the organization has to do it. This community has to be prepared to get it done. And so we have formal training programs which we have now started, but we also have informal training programs to help task shifting in the hospital and in the community. The entire palliative care team is trained in-house. Our entire chemotherapy team is trained in-house. Several of my colleagues have also been trained elsewhere. So we were not doing microvascular, but small, high-quality surgery. So one of my colleagues went to Ludhiana to spend time with a senior microvascular surgeon. He came back. He taught us all how to do microvascular work. And now many of my colleagues practice microvascular surgery. We were not doing minimal invasive surgery. My colleague Ritesh went to Hyderabad, spent some time there. He came back and started the program again. So there are several ways if we can collaborate, if we can build friends and bridges, several ways we can serve the communities that we work for. Remember, friend raising is far more important than fundraising. Friends, colleagues, collaborators, togetherness, all of us together can make a difference that one person can never make. And all growth, all development happens because people collaborate. And so we've had visitors. Every single visitor has added value to our work. They have given us time, they have given us ideas, they have given us money. They have connected us with organizations elsewhere that can help us do better in so many ways. This has happened. Now again, same applies to several organizations across the country and elsewhere that have helped us with patient care, that have helped us support equipment, that have helped us for research purposes, that have helped us for education, community work, so many ways. And then today, as we move forward, we realize that in order to say inclusive, Dr. Shanta's quote, is everything for every patient. We have to be available, we have to be accessible, we have to be acceptable, we must be effective. Most importantly, we must be equitable, we must be efficient, timely, safe, and people-centered. The patient, the sick man, has to be the center of all decision making. The problem is when we start prioritizing the interests of the institution, the interests of the staff. Oh, too many patients are there, I have to go home, so I cannot see any more patients. When we start thinking of other factors that will influence decision making, we sometimes go the way that is not appropriate. So long as we keep the patient as the center of the story, we will rarely go wrong. Today, we are treating more than 5,000 new patients with a 65 to 70% compliance rate. We are in 5 campuses. We have more than 450 staff. But then we always make sure, at least we strive to make sure that the patient is at the center of what we do. Some time ago, we all sat down, brainstormed, and wrote, what is our mission? And we said, we want to become a state-of-the-art cancer center that will ensure that no cancer happens, no individual will develop a cancer that can be prevented, that nobody will be denied care for want of resources, that no patient will die in indignity and pain induced by cancer, and that no patient's family will be reduced to the streets because of expenses caused by cancer. But then the philosophy of the organization must percolate from top to bottom, from the director to the doorman. Everybody in the organization must be on the same page if we have to develop. So we all sat down, we wrote what are our values about? What is it that the organization wants to transfer to the next generation? If so long as we are there and everything is fine, and then when we move on, if things start deteriorating, if the values change, if patient care suffers, then what we have done is of no value. We might as well have done other things. And so we want to be able to develop a process whereby we are able to transfer our values to people who join later, to the next generation, and to teach them to teach ahead in their turns. Obviously, every generation will have different values, will have different problems, and their solutions will be different. But like honesty, integrity, some values cannot be changed. And we chose compassion, a pro-poor attitude, teamwork, to develop an attitude of gratitude, to innovate scientifically, and to deliver standard evidence-based care as our core values. And we're trying to teach our whole team about each of these. But to me personally, of all of these, compassion probably is the most important value that we as an organization, we as a community, we as a nation, and we as citizens of this world can learn and follow. And compassion has so many hues, so many varieties, but it is always about providing comfort. Always about providing comfort. It can be to a small child with a cancer. It can be by ensuring that whatever be the calamity, we are able to provide health care. It can be about a woman with breast cancer who and her husband love singing Hindi film songs. And we as the treating physician should know about this. It can be about providing care for people at home. It can be about one sick person taking care of another sick person. This image in the bottom left is during COVID. Both these gentlemen had COVID. They were in the COVID ward. And when I had gone to see them, one of them was clipping the nails of the other. I mean, what more can we talk of for compassion? And so, variety of ways. But then that is, to me, the overarching goal for us. See, so having an opportunity to serve is a gift. But being able to do so is a privilege. As doctor, I've written doctor, but it could be a doctor, it could be a teacher, it could be anybody here. As a doctor, we are clinicians, we are healers. As doctors, we are researchers, we are scientists. As a doctor, the word doctor means teacher. As a doctor, we are teachers. We mentor students, we mentor younger colleagues. We also teach the community about health care, about health promotion, that many diseases are lifestyle diseases and they can be prevented, that there are opportunities available in the community around us to help us negotiate these pathways. And so our role as teachers, very, very important. And then above all, as doctors, we are all change makers. We can actually change the way we think of diseases, change the way we think of healthcare, change the way we deal with people, change the way we treat sick people. And so we have the power in us to be change makers. I've had the fortune of having several mentors, several people who have changed the way I think. But I would like to remember Dr. Krishnamurthy, who taught me many things about cancer care, about administration, about my philosophy in life, and Dr. Shanta. Many of you will recognize this picture. This is from 2005, possibly in a similar, I don't know where it was, the function was held, but this is her accepting her Ramon Magsaysay Award in 2005. And for me, this award is so much more special because somebody who taught me all of this was recognized thus many years ago. Before I say thank you, I want to call upon stage two of my colleagues, Ritesh and Darshana, because they are all part of my team. Ritesh, come. See, what we do is because of teamwork. We are supported by people like you in the community, by people like you elsewhere in the world. And all of us together make a difference. And the Ramon Magsaysay Award, the recognition, I very strongly believe recognizes this human spirit of people joining hands and making efforts to change the lives of fellow human beings anywhere in the world. Thank you very much. This is thank you in several languages that we speak in the hospital. In Hindi, in English, in Tamil, in Bangla, in Khasi, in Mizo, so many languages. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Wow, that is indeed amazing. And please allow me, Dr. Ravi, to add one more word in that, words of gratitude. Maraming salamat po. It is such a privilege for all of us to hear everything. All of the things that you shared a while ago, Dr. Ravi, kinikilabutan ako, mga kababayan, because of everything that he mentioned of the, with what Dr. Ravi mentioned. You know, cancer here in the Philippines, we have a long way to go when it comes to healthcare here in the Philippines. And you know what, Dr. Ravi, if I am your patient, and if you talk to me like that, I would feel that I can be healed. Access to healthcare is indeed possible. Maraming salamat po. Thank you very much, Dr. Ravi. I am very excited to keep the ball rolling, ladies and gentlemen, for the panel later. But before that, we would like to share a video with you as we now bring you to Silchar, Assam, northeastern part of India. And this is where we get to see what they are doing at the CCHCR. Panoorin po natin ito. Okay, so as we wait for our friends from technical as they prepare for that video, you know, a few points, I have few notes here. I'm super excited for the Q&A part later, Dr. Ravi. You know, I am so amazed how you did that 24-hour urgency from the experience of the patient, from the registration to screening to diagnosis to treatment. That is very amazing, sir, because coming from the patient's perspective, fear is always there. The risk of having cancer is always scary. Here in the Philippines, it's very hard, well, coming from healthcare, our experience is, it's very hard for Filipinos to be motivated to have that early screening, for early management, and for prevention as well, because they fear that if they realize that they are positive with cancer, whatever cancer type there is, they wouldn't have access to healthcare, to treatment, to proper doctors. And I admire what you said about everybody deserves the same quality of healthcare. May that patient be coming from the rich or the poor population, same healthcare, same treatment, same experience in the hospital should be given to that person, to that patient. And that motivates the patient to be well. Cancer is indeed a death sentence. That is the perspective. But, sir, you are truly a hero for changing that. So we are very thankful and we are very excited to hear also the thoughts from our audience here in the hall and also online. I'm sure you're holding on to your thoughts, to your questions later on, but reserve that because I think our video is okay now. All right. So let's watch this video, especially for our audience online. Please watch this video prepared for you guys. Thank you very much.
We are a patient-centered, a people-centered organization that has some core values of compassion, of being poor. Focus is always on people, patients, their caregivers, our own colleagues. We believe that whatever we do must be able to improve the lives of people around us. My professor always used to say, the fruits of science must reach the last man on the queue. And if that does not happen, then that science is of no value. Several years ago, not even 30% of our patients were completing treatment. And over the years, we have put in measures like, providing employment, of, starting outreach clinics, of making home visits. There are areas in the region where even 10 kilometers will take more than 3 hours to traverse. And so depending on the geography, the clinic will serve a population of anywhere between 5,000-10,000 to 1 or 2 lakhs. And we are looking at these satellite clinics providing OPD consultations, follow-ups, palliative care, health promotion and cancer prevention activities, and chemotherapy. Some of these areas we are also looking at creating full-fledged hospitals that can actually offer surgical procedures also. The most impactful activities center around early detection, primary prevention, and provision of palliative care at both ends of the cancer care spectrum. Early detection is important because it will improve cure rates, it will reduce the cost of treatment, and it will reduce the morbidity, the side effects of treatment. And palliative care, currently about 60-70% of our patients present with advanced disease and will end up needing symptom control, end-of-life care, and that is therefore it's another extremely important part of the cancer delivery spectrum. All of us are responsible for the well-being of our own communities and societies. And so we are trying to create these communities for health in different parts of the region. We are trying to empower local leadership, local community members for promoting health, for talking about tobacco control, for talking about early detection, for encouraging people to go for early investigations and teaching them about the support systems available in different hospitals that will help patients, individuals go through the whole process without too much of economic hardship. Cancer care requires collaborative work from people from different specialties, from cleaning personnel to nurses, to technicians, to lab assistants, researchers, nurses, doctors. Everybody has to collaborate in order to ensure standard of care to the patient and good experience during health care for the patient and the family. Volunteers are a very big part of our work, and people can volunteer a flag bearer, a torch bearer for all our core values. And only when people have these values can they be happy and productive in an organization like ours. Ultimately, it's only a happy person who can make others happy. Only a healthy nation can protect itself. Only a healthy nation can be productive. And therefore, health promotion is everybody's responsibility. We are responsible for the well-being of our nation.
speechless right now. Only because after listening and watching and you talking about compassion, which is a wonderful word, but it's so difficult to do, and knowing the kinds of patients that you see day in and day out, nonstop, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. You are an amazing man, Dr. Ravi. And again, I think Emily Abrera and I and several of our Board of Trustees listening to us today know we really chose the right person in giving you the Ramon Magsaysay Award for your greatness of spirit. And so with us this afternoon is another one of our Board of Trustees who is actually our moderator for this afternoon. But he's joining us online. We're trying to be very technologically advanced as well, Dr. Ravi, with a hybrid. I have with us as well Mr. Ernie Garilao. Ernie, where are you?
Oh,
There you go. Hi, Ernie.
I'm in line because I just finished COVID and I don't like to technology.
All right. So I guess first in our panel, I better start calling our panelists. First is another esteemed, part of our community, is our 2013 Ramon Magsaysay Awardee, Dr. Ernesto Domingo from the Philippines. He is a remarkable national scientist of the Philippines and Professor Emeritus at the University of the Philippines, College of Medicine in UP Manila. He is a specialist in hepatology and gastroenterology. Hello, Dr. Domingo. It is such a pleasure to have you. Dr. Domingo, if I could just add, is also, had very successful advocacies for neonatal hepatitis vaccination, and he has been able to save the lives of millions and millions of people. So another esteemed member of our Magsaysay community. Joining us today as well is Dr. Susan Mercado, who is one of Western Pacific's foremost women leaders in public health. She served in senior management for the World Health Organization for 15 years, including her stint as the first WHO Western Pacific Director for non-communicable diseases throughout her life course. So she has, if I read her bio data, we'll probably spend the rest of the afternoon here because she has so much. But during the pandemic, she hosted over 150 webinars on clinical management on COVID-19 through the University of the Philippines, and currently she serves as a special advisor for global health of the Department of Health. Welcome, Dr. Susan. And our last panelist is Dr. George Ignacio. Dr. Ignacio is a fellow of the Philippine Society of Medical Oncology, Philippine Society of Oncologists, and Philippine College of Physicians. He currently serves as the chairman of the Cancer Institute of the Philippine General Hospital and has had this position since 2012. Welcome, George. All right, Ernie, take it away. Let's see. Ernie, is he there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There you go. Okay.
Maybe just for starters, Dr. Ravi, first of all, let me just congratulate you for your presentation. It was mind-boggling for us, those who are in public health. We're appreciative of the fact that you have shown the way that in fact a poor cancer hospital and its necessary services is possible and can be made available, and for us to learn from strategies and what has been done. Maybe as a general question, Asia has one half of the global burden on cancer. Uh, However, when you take a look at cancer, you're looking at maybe a treatment completion rate or a survival rate. In wealthier countries like Japan, South Korea, and Singapore, the survival rate for first-time patients is 56 to 65 persons out of 100. But in low-income countries, it is down to around 28 to 40 people out of 100 have gotten cancer. And of course, the primary reason being lack of awareness, uh, uh, late detection, health services are poorly developed. In your opinion, Dr. Ravi, would you think this situation will be the same for poorer cancer patients for low-income countries for some time to come? Or would you see an improvement in the treatment rate and the survival rate of the poor of Asia?
Thank you. Thank you, Ernie. Okay, now maybe we can get the reactions of our panelists, and I'll start with Dr. Domingo. Dr. Domingo, you have a microphone right there beside you. There you go.
Thank you and good afternoon. Please don't be intimidated by these thick papers. I will stay within my time. Thank you. By way of starting my reaction to Dr. Kanan R's lecture, let me give you a very, very short personal story. As a trainee in internal medicine, just like Dr. Kanan R, I had the good fortune of being tutored by some of the best physicians, teachers in the country. One of them was a revered internist, Professor Emeritus of the University of the Philippines, a former President of the University of the Philippines, and a former personal physician of an incumbent President of the Republic. He is the late Dr. Antonio G. Sison. I was assigned by my department to be his man Friday for 2 years, as he taught in the College of Medicine to both undergraduate and graduate medical students. On one occasion, he brought me to his small library in his house. The library, surprisingly, had no medical book. Instead, were books on philosophy, ethics, history of medicine, and the social sciences. He said to me, Dr. Domingo, a physician who knows only medicine does not know medicine. He suggested that I start reading these kinds of books, starting with Dr. Williams Osler's, who was a physician. Later on, I became a passionate believer that medicine is not only a biomedical science, but is a social science as well. When I became chairman of the Department of Medicine, I admonished my faculty to devote at least 1/4 of their lecture time on the social aspects of their topic whenever appropriate, which I did personally. The other lesson Dr. Sison taught me was via a sarcastic remark when he said, if we throw away all our medicines into the ocean, too bad for the fish, but good for man. Since then, I became critical of the science of medicine, which is good to my patient, for my patients. Again, like Dr. Kanan R, I had been exposed to the appalling inequality in the availment of health services and goods among different economic groups of the population, to the detriment of the poor and destitutes. In the Philippine General Hospital, the biggest public and charity hospital in the country, which, while also the teaching hospital of the College of Medicine of the University of the Philippines, long lines of patients was a daily phenomenon. These patients endured untold inconvenience and discomfort just to avail of free medical care. I know because I spent 40 years of my career in this institution. It became obvious to me and others, though a little late, that as long as access to medical services and goods are treated like commodities for sale, scandalous inequity will persist in their availment by the population to the detriment of the poor and destitute. It so happens that inequity in health is a universal problem, even among rich countries. There seems to be a consensus among the countries that in attempting to address the problem, universal healthcare system stands the best chance of solving it, because universal healthcare is grounded on the principle that access to health services and goods is a basic human right and therefore can be demanded by the citizens from their government regardless of their ability to pay for such entities. In the year 2008, a ragtag group of members of University of the Philippines, Manila, organized the Universal Healthcare Study Group and launched the advocacy for the adoption of universal healthcare as the healthcare system of the country. We have a strong constitutional basis for the advocacy because Section 15 of the Philippine Constitution states that access to health services and goods is a fundamental human right that must be guaranteed to every citizen of the country. 11 years later, the Universal Healthcare Law, or Act, was passed by Congress in 2019 and became the mandatory healthcare system of the country. Now, 4 years later, we are grappling with this implementation. Note that nobody among us, its advocates, said that it is easy to implement. The difficulties being encountered is no argument to abandon the system. After all, it took England, an old and great nation, 40 years to fully implement universal health care. If we want to have a comprehensive cancer care program in this country in the image of what Dr. Kanan was able to set up, our best chance is to do it under a universal healthcare system. Cancer or malignancy, together with degenerative diseases exemplified by cardio and neurovascular diseases, will be if not the major challenge to universal healthcare by virtue of their prevalence and very expensive current management. Experts estimate that 3 out of 4 cancer cases result not from genetic aberration, but rather the result of cumulative damage to the tissues from environmental and physical agents. In my particular specialty, hepatology or study of the liver, the number 1 cancer is called hepatocellular carcinoma, or HCC for short. HCC arises without exception from a previously diseased liver, not from a healthy liver. In our country, our liver study group at the University of the Philippines, Manila, identified the most prevalent antecedent cause of the liver, which is the virus hepatitis B. At the time we finished our study, by a fortunate coincidence, an effective vaccine against the virus became available. Our study group worked for the inclusion of hepatitis B vaccine in the expanded program of immunization of the Department of Health. However, at present, there emerged a far more important disease that is precursor of liver cancer, and that is fatty liver. This prevalent disease increases the risk of cancer of the liver tremendously. And the most common cause of fatty liver is obesity or overweight. It has been estimated by experts that 1/3 of the world's population are obese or overweight. And that translates into about 2.5 billion people. Thus, this is the biggest control challenge because obesity involves behavioral, social, and even economic factors. Again, medicine is a social science. In a significant way, Dr. KANNAN's comprehensive work on cancer will provide useful insights into the solution of this gigantic problem. To borrow a phrase from the Ramon Magsaysay Foundation, Dr. KANNAN's work is, quote, a ripple at the base of the pyramid. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Domingo. That was wonderful. All right, and now we go to Dr. Susan Mercado. Please tell us your insights.
Okay, thank you very much, and congratulations, Dr. Kanan. I'm blown away by the work you do. It's almost like watching a series on Netflix, how you have grown a cancer center from the ground up. I come from the field of health promotion, and as has been mentioned, I worked on non-communicable diseases at the World Health Organization. And that was the first department division started in about 2013. So that's how late the World Health Organization began recognizing the need to have an entire division for non-communicable diseases. But as many other things are in medicine and in public health, it is really the community and the ground that shows the way forward. And I think this is what your story is about. It's about the community and about yourself and your team and the power of humanity. Well, we call it compassion at Ramon Magsaysay, right? But I'm thinking, after the pandemic, I've begun to think about what are the human qualities that helped us survive the pandemic and that will help us overcome cancer. And we talk about compassion. I've been reading this book on Ikigai, which is about purpose. And I spent 3 years in Hawaii where I began to learn what aloha meant. And it doesn't mean hello or goodbye. It really means that you have some kind of a spirit of caring for yourself and others and nature, which I think in the Philippines, I'm trying to look for the word for it. I don't know if I have the word for it, but I think it's kusa. Like you have inside you the ability to change things and to change the world and to keep on going, which is what I saw in your presentation. I think your focus on people is so evident throughout the whole story. And it's about problem solving. It's not about setting up a system. It's about you have this problem right now, you solve it and you move and it's nimble. And I think this is what we need to do in a post-COVID area where we really don't know what's happening next. Our world is so unstable, and COVID has taught us, and recent wars have taught us that the world as we know it can change overnight. And there are no pathways, there's no map, but there is compassion. There is ikigai, there is aloha, there is kusa. There's something inside us as human beings that will allow us to endure and to survive. Now, I wanted to just say a few things about growing things from the ground, because I come from, Dr. Domingo knows this, I come from a family of cancer, well, I won't say cancer survivors. I lost a brother at the age of 45 from colon cancer, and my father was a gastroenterologist. I lost my grandparents from cancer. I have a sister who survived breast cancer, and I have a brother who survived acute myelogenous leukemia in the United States. And in our day, when it's AML, sir, wala na di ba? Dr. Domingo, no? When you say you have adult leukemia, that's it. And, but he survived, he's alive, because of a center in the United States called the City of Hope. Now, the City of Hope was very intriguing for me because it's designed like a sun with rays. So it's like you have independent corridors and it's well lit and it's well ventilated. And so I said, how did you build this? And they said this used to be the National Tuberculosis Center. And so the United States had shifted from using that particular building for tuberculosis to using it for cancer. And I think this is the dilemma that our health systems face. Non-communicable diseases are running away. And we are nowhere near catching up with what needs to be done. And that's why the community response is very important. But it really has to be supported by the formal health system, which is nowhere near thinking about the human resources that are needed to run a program like yours. I'm thinking, I was looking at your photographs and I said, my goodness, so many working on cancer in a community. So I just want to share my appreciation for sharing your story, to congratulate you and your team. Some of who are with you today, you should be very proud of what you've done. And while it's laudable that you have a from the ground up kind of cancer program, it's also a little bit sad for us, I think, because I'd like to say we had something like that in the Philippines, but we don't. And I guess we draw inspiration from what you have done. And we look forward to hearing more about how you are going to evolve your program. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mercado. Now somebody that's very close to cancer, unfortunately or fortunately for us Filipinos, is the, as I said, chairman of the Cancer Institute of the Philippine General Hospital, Dr. George Ignacio. Sir, your thoughts, please.
Thank you, Susan. First, I'd like to thank the Ramon Magsaysay Award Foundation for allowing me to react to Dr. Kanan. I congratulate you. That's true. Susan pointed it out. We don't have from a grassroots level like that. Always have, it's like an ivory tower. You're there and you make a program for people. And you have shown us something very, very different right now. And it's doable. You're the evidence for all these things. So while Dr. Domingo will not be able to remember me when I was in hospital because I came from another hospital and I had internal medicine. After the fellowship, they asked me to look for a masteral program. And I ended up taking a masteral in pastoral ministry and theology in the Loyola School of Theology. And there, the emphasis on empathy, aside from compassion, was always there. And right now, I felt that awakening once more, looking at the video and of course listening to Dr. Kanan and looking at all the people that you brought in also. It's different. It's very different when I, as has been mentioned, working with cancer for a long, long time. I'm reminded by I consider my great teacher said that if you have a lamp, you don't put it under a bushel basket, but you put it on top of a place where it can light the whole room. And that is what Dr. Kanan is. He was the light in the darkness that lighted the whole room. And I think that is a very difficult thing to do. I've been with the Cancer Institute for a long time. We've been trying to make programs, but we are not successful enough even to wake up the employees of PGH for early detection itself. We offered cervical cancer screening, we offered mammography, doing programs and telling bisections of the hospital, come for free mammography, come for free pap smear and everything, which is very, very doable, but we can't do it. And I stand here in awe looking at how your program is doing. We even have a mobile mammography ultrasound with a team of surgeons who would do their biopsy right there and then go into the community was only halted by the pandemic. We have that donation from the Hyundai Foundation, installed a mammography inside the van. And our maiden voyage, we went to Cavite, far-flung, the southern part of Luzon, our country. We were able to get like 7 positive patients for just 50 screening, and the rate of pickup of mammography is 1 in 100 patients. To pick up 7 patients right there and then was actually remarkable. And we are having a problem right now on logistics, on how to sustain going to the community, being able to push through. And I was looking at what you've done and can't help but think of the word synergy. But this is beyond synergy, like putting all your resources together and having one common goal and moving forward. But there is something more than just synergy in there. As Dr. Susie Pineda has shown, has told us, there's something more coming from a spirit inside you which drives you to do things as one, moving together, feeling something as a cancer patient-centered program, always putting the cancer patient first or the patient first beyond your own interests. That is actually difficult in a multisectoral society like ours, especially the reality is most of the programs are driven by pharmaceuticals that will be economically and politically driven programs that the vested interests are always there. How can you take that out of a system like this in our country? It will be very difficult. It will take a light like Dr. Kanan here to be able to single out your goal to serve, purely to serve the cancer patient and to treat the patient holistically. I have to wait for a time to be able to do that. And I was talking to my wife, it's the batchmate of Dr. Pineda here in medicine. I told her, do I wait for retirement? Because I am right now on the verge of making a farm and naming that farm after several contemplation, Taghilom. Taghilom in our dialect means a season of healing. That is where I will bring my patients. Because for a long, long time that I've been treating cancer, I found out that what is more important to every cancer patient is to heal not just the body, but the spirit of the patient. Because in the end, you will leave your body, but your spirit will live on. The immortality of that spirit should be always preserved. And that should have the uttermost importance of all. And so, inspired by Dr. Kanan, I would bring that to the farm to heal patients, their emotions, their whole family, their relationships. It will prepare them for the eventuality of passing on to immortality. And I think, aside from, of course, our base in PGH, in the Philippine General Hospitals, always service, research, training, we have to put in something more than those three. We have to put in the compassion, the preparation of patients for the eventuality of death, which is the most certain thing of all, and yet we are not able to prepare patients for. We always try to deny that patients would eventually die, and always try to hide that, don't worry, don't talk about that one. We will do everything for you. We will keep you alive no matter what. But we can't really do that. Time and time again, my patients has taught me, you cannot tell your patients, they'll keep you alive as much as I can. No, there's somebody up there who will tell you when this patient will go, and you will not be able to do anything about it. And so, preparing these patients will more than do everything for them. It's the most important thing to me right now. And I saw that in your presentation, and I saw that in your spirit, not only just the visuals. I saw that the way you talk, the way you conveyed your ideas, it's inside you. And I think that is what you have imparted this afternoon. And I thank you, and I thank the board for allowing me to react to your presentation and to you as a person. Thank you, Dr. Kanan.
Thank you, Dr. George. Thank you. What wonderful, compassionate doctors we have on stage here. That is just so wonderful. Before we open it up to questions, if you have any questions, please raise your hand, tell the ushers to come, and please write your questions in the piece of paper that you can ask Dr. Kanan and our panelists. But before I do that, I wanted to go back to Ernie in case Ernie has some other thoughts or comments before we open it up to the general public. Ernie?
No, I think we can just proceed to the open forum. Susan, we can just proceed with the open forum.
Oh, we can just proceed. Okay. Well, then I turn it on to Tina Marasigan.
All right, thank you very much, Sir Ernie, Tita Susan. All right, so I have the questions here coming from our audience, and I'm sure everyone is excited to give their questions as well. We are also opening our chat box for our online participants. Please feel free to key in your insights, your comments, and even your questions. We will be sharing that on the floor as I receive it coming from our technical team. And guys, for our participants here, please feel free to grab the mic in front of you and to ask our dear heroes here. This is once in a lifetime, guys. Napakaswerte nyo for being able to ask your questions and to even comment on their talk and their sharing. So I see a hand there, yes? The gentleman wearing black, please feel free to get the mic and introduce yourself. Maraming salamat.
Hi. Okay, hi. I am Carl Adrian Yao, and I study from the University of Santo Tomas, Department of Political Science. So, healthcare for everyone is both very ambitious and very expensive. We all know that. And cancer, as introduced earlier by the by the esteemed president of the Ramon Magsaysay Center, is a costly disease. So I applaud you for that, Mr. Ravi Kanan, for treating for free. So with that said, you mentioned that the treatment provided is of great quality. How are resources consistently gathered and treatment produced without gaining much or any money at all? And how long do you think you can keep on providing this healthcare service?
So any program has to be sustainable. And I thank you for that question. If you start something and then you're not able to sustain it, it becomes an experiment. And so the way to sustainability is to keep costs as low as possible. So the biggest expenditure that comes for any organization is salaries. And so while our salaries are not like market rates, they have to be fairly reasonable. Your staff have to be happy, they have to raise families, build a house, buy a car, send their kids to school. If we cannot meet basic requirements of the staff, then you will fail. You won't be able to retain them. And so one of the key things is to keep the staff numbers under control. Doesn't mean where it is important you don't recruit. But we have a policy of multitasking. So our chief of surgery may do endoscopy once, maybe doing administration at another point, maybe seeing outpatient care. They will do multiple things. Our social workers will visit homes, will do social work, will do ward rounds, will do multiple things, not entirely in their own specialty. So that is one thing that we do. The other thing is we cut costs at every possible thing, we reduce expenses. As I said, we buy drugs at extremely low rates because it is possible. We ourselves bargain, and then through our National Cancer Grid also we bargain, we reduce cost of drugs. And then we don't sell them at the market rates. We put a 20% charge, and sometimes the difference between the purchase price and the sale price maybe 3 times the cost of the medicine. And so we reduce costs. And then we also have a policy that we will not spend money on equipment or infrastructure. We beg, ask for CSR support, ask for support from different organizations. So we don't have to bother about return on investments. If I put a large amount of money buying a radiation equipment or a CT scan or a PET scan, then I have to pay back the loan. And so we don't take loans. All equipment, all buildings have to come from public support. And for that, this has been an enormous learning opportunity, coming here and seeing how the foundation functions to create sustainability has given us also some ideas to go back. And so we learn from different, and that is how our visitors, our people that we work with help us, because they all give us, like you asked, how do you sustain? People will come and tell. So like here we found, they have a building, the building's rent pays. I never thought of it. I was wondering, why didn't we ever think of it? So there are different ways to ensure sustainability, but ensuring sustainability at the same time, ensuring that the core values of the organization don't change because of economic needs is one of the tasks of the leadership. Every organization's leadership has to ensure this, that is creating leaders who will speak the same language, and also creating sustainability is a challenge and a task.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So still, the mic is open for other questions. Okay, we have so many hands over there. I see the man wearing white. But before we go to you, a good follow-up to that first question, Dr. Ravi, is a question from YouTube from Mr. Alberto, NGO worker. Or is he here, Mr. Alberto? Or the question is for... He's here. All right. Okay. So the question is, how do you convince your financiers and supporters to fund your cancer treatment program, considering that cancer is long-term and costly disease? So maybe a good follow-up also, because you mentioned that to minimize the pressure of ROI, you ask for equipment and you put your investment to the medicines and treatment for your patients. So how do you do that? How do you convince your financiers?
So the thing is, there is enormous amount of goodness around us. Everybody wants to do good. It's just that they don't have opportunities. They don't know how to become, but everybody wants to be a part of something much bigger than themselves. And so we go about looking, and now our own government in India has made corporate social responsibility mandatory. Every industry has to contribute a certain percentage for social causes. And so over the years, the environment has changed. What was when we started several years ago, the environment, and there are several organizations coming forward actively looking for areas where they can invest their money without expecting anything in return. All they want is that their money be used well. I told you there's an Israeli company that has helped us start our tele-ICU program. They gave us money for 1.5 or 2 years to put in equipment and to pay for the usage for the internet. And so there are people all over. It's just that we have to learn to connect with them. We are also learning. We are not experts in that. But I'm pretty sure if we create this circle of goodness around us, it will sustain us.
I'm searching for the quote that you shared a while ago. Friend racing is more important than fundraising. So that's that's the secret there. Thank you, Dr. Ravi. Now we go to the third question from the gentleman wearing white.
Tina, maybe while we're waiting for the gentleman, I just have to say that the researchers that went to Dr. Kanan's place came back so impressed because they didn't know that we were doing any kind of research with Dr. Kanan. But every person that they spoke to believed in the mission. They were all united in the mission. So I think it becomes easier to fundraise when they see it in action. You don't have to convince them that it works. You don't have to convince them that it's helping people because it's right there for everybody to see. So I think that's also one of the reasons why.
Agree, Ms. Susan. Everyone is on the same page because everyone sees the genuine mission in the project or in the program. Sir, please feel free to give your question.
Good evening and a good afternoon to everyone. This question is actually in relation to the first question. Now, mostly everyone, except those who stand to lose something against by its implementation, wants an inclusive health system. The major barrier between attaining this system is, of course, finances. Now, my question is, without the use of charitable donations and government subsidies, how do you propose that an inclusive healthcare system be sustainably implemented? And how could this be implemented in the global stage?
So let me give you some mathematics of what we do. So you must understand that. So we spend about our monthly salary budget comes to about, let me put it in rupees. You can put it in any denomination that you want. We spend about 1.4 crores on salaries. We spend about a similar amount on patient care, on drugs, on consumables, and then we spend about nearly 1 crore on electricity, water, diesel, maintenance. The total comes to about 4 or 5 or 6 crores, 5 crores. Let's put the math as 5 crores. Now, out of the 5 crores, from different, starting 2017, the Indian government has started creating health insurance for its own people. And so initially we had state insurance and the central insurance, and now gradually all the states are coming onto this common plan. And we are very certain that no government will ever remove this, because every government will want to make this insurance scheme better than what it already is. Once you've committed something to the public in a democracy, you cannot take it back from them. And so the government has committed to investing in healthcare, and it is improving. There were several lacunae in the insurance programs, but it is improving. So out of our health patient care budget of about 1.5 crores, we are raising about 1.2 crores from the state, from the insurance claims. The other support comes from different CSR projects. And then we also have several non-government organizations in the country that help patients. We have the Indian Cancer, like you have a Philippines Cancer Society, we have an Indian Cancer Society. The Indian Cancer Society gives us money. And then we have different schemes like that, different smaller agencies, different government agencies. So we keep looking around, and so we are able to beat the mathematics of the, there is right now a shortfall of about 20-30 lakhs every month, which gets carried on to the next month. But we are also looking at ways to handling it. It is a tightrope walk. Trust me, it is not that I can sit back and say, oh, next month salaries will happen. There have been months when we didn't know, end of the previous month, we didn't know where the next month's salary is going to come from. This has happened as recently as 3 months ago. And we were wondering, in all these years, we have not had to default paying staff salaries even once. touch wood, it has not happened. And again, 2-3 months ago, I thought, oh, maybe this time it will happen. And then what happened? The state insurance owed us a lot of money. And suddenly one night they decided to deposit 1.4 crores in our account. And this has happened many times in the past. So now I'm also slowly beginning to believe that because we are committed to patient care, we are trying to do some good, eventually solutions will work out. It is a philosophical way of looking at it, but I also know the math. I also know the math is working out. So I think as times go by, we will become better at it. It is just that we have to start somewhere and not be afraid of failing. We will stumble. No path is, as kids, when we first started to walk, we fell and hurt our knees. When we first learned to cycle, we scraped our knees. So that we will have problems. But we will get over them if we stick to it.
So I'd like to clarify something. So
Yes.
you're telling me that without government subsidies,
No, government subsidies are there. The state insurance is from the government. And so the money that comes for patient care comes to the hospital.
wait, so an inclusive healthcare system is impossible without government subsidies.
So what the government, because remember one thing, none of us, whether we are small institutions or hospitals, are competing with our governments. What our governments can do, no individual or no individual organization can do. We are all partners in democracy. In democracy, we are the government. I may not be the minister, I may not be the secretary, but I am also part of the government because I'm a citizen who has rights and responsibilities and duties. And so we contribute to whatever good the government is able to do. We augment where the government falls short, but we are all government. We are all in the process of governance. You understand? And so government, we take aid from the government to do what we are doing. Smaller agencies are more nimble than government machinery. To run a hospital, it takes so much of effort. Imagine running the government. It's a lot more of complex and lot more effort. And so that's how it works.
And
All
it's
right,
probably
thank you,
like PhilHealth for us, that there's a percentage that comes from the government paying the hospital.
All right. So let's give also a chance for the early birds who gave their questions. So this is from Jasmine K. Mau Irat. Okay. Question is for Dr. Susie Mercado and also for Dr. Ravi. Also a good follow-up after that question. What key elements are necessary to create a truly inclusive healthcare ecosystem that serves all members of society, including marginalized communities? As we saw, it's very possible in India, but Dr. Mercado, is it truly possible also here in the Philippines?
Yes, definitely an inclusive healthcare ecosystem, as you put it, is possible. What does that start with? It starts with a fundamental way of looking at other people and not being, what should I say, afraid of people who are different from us. A lot of hate in the world comes from us not wanting to associate or be with people who are not like us. And a lot of exclusion in healthcare systems also comes from that same principle. And where does that come from? So you guys watch Star Wars, right? So I'm a Yoda fan. Yoda said, fear, which is what we have to combat in fighting for inclusivity, fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. And hate leads to suffering. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. You can Google that. So I think Dr. Kanan has talked about how do you overcome fear and how do you build trust. Because that is the key element when you're dealing with people-centered healthcare. You need to build trust, as you said, friend-raising, but it is also about overcoming fear. And he had very good examples of, not everyone wants to go to a beautiful hospital with fountains and murals, right? People would like a more modest hospital where they are respected, they're not seen as being different, and they're not treated in a way that they feel discriminated. Go to any health center and you will see that if people are not well dressed or they're not speaking the same language, they're at the back. They're not at the part of the priority. Whereas somebody who comes in a car, right, who has a barong or whatever it is, goes to the front of the line. So, inclusivity is something that we overcome by changing our mindset. And it's not easy, but it has to start with you. You have to not be afraid of people who are different from you. And when we think about the discussion this morning and all of the conflict in the world, much of it comes from that we are afraid of those who are not like us. You have to overcome that fear. Because if you don't overcome that fear, you will continuously exclude people from the healthcare system.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mercado. Dr. Ravi?
No, I think she summed it up very well. Treat others just the way you expect yourself to be treated. That's all. You'll be fine.
Thank you very much. All right. Questions? I think I'll get someone from this group. Yes, the lady wearing black. Sige. Anyone? Okay. Go ahead.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, especially to the ladies and gentlemen on the stage. I'm Erich Francina Chenza, also a student from UST Poli. I'm a freshman, and I learned a lot from your talks po. And my question can be answered by anyone on that stage. So, do you have any advice, or do you have an advice to Filipino people, especially those who are underprivileged, who already lost their hope in the Philippine healthcare system, considering that our government tends to overlook the health sector of our country? Thank you.
Dr. Ignacio?
I was hoping you'll not ask me to answer that.
No pressure, no
Really?
pressure.
I have been dealing with all these problems for a long time. As I mentioned a while ago, a lot of our system is driven by politics and economics of all this. The politics, I will give you an example. I have a patient whose medicine will be like more than 1 million that will be given in 1 year. But she has a husband who is a member of a very influential religious group. And the fund of the person that they went to, a government official, said, my son is running for a position and I will give you a check for 2 million, much more than she would need for her treatment. Another one is like many of our patients who is very poor, needing 20,000 or 25,000 worth of chemotherapy per cycle, is given only 5,000 or 10,000 the most, because the social worker said there are much more patients in line waiting. But this lady whose husband, as I said, is well connected, was given more than she needs. How is that? And I know that you're very impressionable. You're young people. You should be idealistic. And I would like to challenge you right now, because the our system is in reality that way. I have patients knocking on my door. Okay, be quite emotional. Because I'm an end user. And the patients would ask, Doc, may gamot na ba? If you'll answer patients in a way, and as I said on over lunch, wala pang gamot, you don't have medicine, and your patient would listen to the radio or watch the TV and see that 1 billion peso worth of medicine expired in the warehouse of DOH, how would you feel? That is reality. That is happening right now. The challenge is, how do you get rid of such a system? So oppressive, so dominant. It's like if you're in a video game, it's the overlord. You're trying to get rid of that. It's the greatest challenge ever in my life. Well, Philippine health system could use a lot more idealistic people, people who would get rid of the greed part and not concentrate on how much they will get out of projects. Tell you another story. Just last week, you know the railway problem that we are asking China to build? They had to relocate about 7,000 plus families in the railway. Problem is like this: the national would like to relocate them somewhere in Cavite, and they'd like the project for themselves. But the individual cities around the track would like to have it by themselves, also to build their own relocation for housing for all these families. For just one reason: they will make money out of that housing project, each city or even the national, and they're quarreling about that. And that's why it's a standstill, stalemate thing. That is reality. So, put people in the government who would mean a lot, who would serve you, who would sacrifice their own interests for the sake of the poor people. I think Dr. Kanan has shown us that it is doable, and that would start in your generation.
Thank you so much, Ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
I'm trying to get a few seconds because I'm also getting emotional following your message to the younger generation. Okay. Go
May I
ahead.
make a short comment? This is my take from what Dr. Kanan R. Has given us. What he has shown us is a model on how to approach a very complicated problem. And he gave all the elements that made the effort a success. Okay. The problem is there are thousands of communities similar to what Dr. Kanan served. How do you now translate this into a national scale? First of all, there is only one Dr. Kanan. You cannot have 1,000 to do that for you. So the take there, as far as I'm concerned, is look at all the elements that went into the success. First of all, one very important element that went into the success is it is an all-of-society's approach. You mobilize everybody, relatives of cancer patients, neighbor of cancer patients, and so down the line. Therefore, when you translate it, you understand now whatever program you will do on a national scale, you must involve all segments of society. So, it is not necessary to replicate exactly what he did in every region of the Philippines, for example. It is only important to pick the essentials. For example, one essential that he said, and that is really accepted, you cannot have a successful health care system if you don't have a good information system, interconnected system. Then you start with that. In this country, that has been a problem that is begging solution. After now, we don't have a national information system that can talk to each other. The Department of Health itself, you go there are about a dozen systems from within. Each one cannot communicate with the other. How can you have a successful intervention scheme? But that is done to everyone, literally, even now. What is missing is the determination to have it implemented. So again, this is a very good model. You can develop this to the point that it becomes principle. So that when you say, when we go after cancer on a national level, first principle, information system. Second principle, involve all of society, etc., etc.
Thank you very much, Dr. Domingo. Actually, there is a last question here, Dr. Domingo, specifically for you, and I think it's a good follow-up also with the thoughts that you gave about everyone getting involved in one mission, and number two, work on the internal system, internal information, so that everyone will be on the same page. Now, there's a question here which came from Krian Carao from the University of Santo Tomas as well. She's asking about your thoughts on healthcare workers leaving the Philippines. Because first, we are not ready. We need healthcare workers. Number one, internal system, make it firm. Number two, get everyone involved. But how can we do that if our health workers are going out?
Incidentally, for your information, that is something we are grappling with for many years now. Okay. I will tell you, this is a very complex problem, but I will just cite one specific instance on how to do this. How to do. And we have communicated this already to the authorities, and they're doing something about it. First of all, the nursing problem. If you try to solve the nursing problem by increasing the salary of nurses, forget it. You can never compete with the salary that they are paying. Number one. Number two, if you insist that all nurses must part the nursing board, you are doomed to failure. You should think out of the box. You go to a hospital. Do you need graduate nurses for everything that is done in the patient? No, only a small portion, maybe giving the drugs. Helping the patient go to the toilet, serve with food, take the temperature, take the blood pressure. That can be done by a high school graduate if I train him. So therefore, what we're saying is, to solve this, so don't solve it by producing more professional with board license, because they are going to leave you. You cannot compete. What you do are train those people who, by preparation or desire, do not have the ability to live. Train them to work. I'll give you last example. In the PGH, the best person we had in the urology section, this is a personal experience, was a janitor. The janitor is teaching the first year medical residents on how to do things. How can that be? Very simple, because you don't need to be a genius to do certain things. So please remember that this has already been at the top level. For example, the CHED has met with other people, with DOH. Can we employ those who did not pass the board? Of course. You tell me, will one examination judge a person who studied for 4 years? Supposing you pass and I failed, can you prove that the failure means I'm really incompetent? Of course not. In England, you don't take a board exam because the university said, what are you doing? One examination, you will substitute for 6 years of our judgment to age with you. See? Because this is our product, 100 faculty certified that he is competent. You give 1 day of examination, you fail him, and you tell him he's not competent. Your examination is at fault. It's not the examinee. The way you frame your questions. See, that's it. Yes, it can be remedied, but you have to get out of the box. Don't think in traditional terms. And I'm happy that even at the CHED level, this is beginning to percolate. Thank you.
And if I can just add, Dr. Domingo, because this is already something that Dr. Kanan and his team is already doing. So just like here in the Philippines, we have so many people that are caring for their sick relatives that are there for hours and hours, days, weeks, months. But instead of them just caring for the one relative, he pays them and becomes part of the entire hospital to help others. So maybe while your patient is asleep, or maybe while your patient is not as needing a person right there and then, the person is shared by other people in the hospital and he pays them. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Exactly. Same thoughts, Ms. Susan. Actually, the first few slides of Dr. Ravi a while ago, he was talking about human resources, right? And there are multiple roles in your healthcare personnel doing different kinds of tasks. Your thoughts, Dr. Ravi?
So, addressing the nursing problem, we also have a nursing problem. Nurses, trained graduate nurses from Silchar will go to Mumbai. From Mumbai, they will go to the Gulf. From the Gulf, it's a one-way passage because you can't stop them. And I don't think you should stop them also. So, but we also have nurses of very low training who are 6 months, 1 year, and we call them DAI. Now, as he says, they will not find employment anywhere, but they are like sponges. They're willing to learn. They just have not had the opportunity to get themselves trained better. You train them, as he says, the janitor teaches somebody to do an instrumentation. These nurses, my nursing supervisor joined as an A&M, a very low qualification. She did her GNM, she did her bachelor's, she did her nursing oncology. Our deputy nursing supervisor, the second highest nursing post, is a DAI. She trained for 1 year somewhere to do basic nursing, and then we trained her in the hospital. An amazing, amazing person. And so our policy is 50% of our nurses will be graduate nurses and 50% will be DAI who we have trained. So the system doesn't collapse when there is an exodus. And so this can apply, task shifting can happen to almost any qualification and grade. And so, see, the problems that we face are maybe similar. The gravity may be more or less depending on the area. Even within Philippines, you will have different areas. So, solutions can be broadly thought of. Different models can be looked at. But you will have to tweak them to local needs, to local cultures, to local sensitivities. But broad principles, if we want to remain inclusive, the concept of inclusive care will not change. Everybody must be having the same treatment. But how we do it varies from area to area, culture to culture. But it can happen. As she says, it is possible everywhere in the world.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ravi. I can't help but to connect it to the values also shared by Dr. Ignacio a while ago, Guys, this is the reality that you have to face. Notwithstanding of your course, of your school, of your profession in the future, but this is the reality that you have to face. But the good news is you can do something about it. And going back to the value shared by Dr. Mercado a while ago, don't be afraid to face or to work with a person that is different from what you're doing. Ay, hindi ako makikipagtrabaho sa kanya, hindi naman siya doktor. Ako, doktor ako. Ay, hindi ako makikisalamuha sa mahirap na tao, hindi ako mahirap. Break that barrier, as Dr. Mercado said, because that will solve also the reality that we are facing. You can do something about it. You are young, you have all the time in the world. You can heal this country, you can heal the world. And our heroes on the stage will be witnesses of your future success. Again, maraming salamat po. Dr. Ignacio, Dr. Mercado, Dr. Domingo, Dr. Ravi, of course, and Miss Susan. Thank you so very much. All right. What a sensational and very lively discussion we had. Maraming salamat din sa lahat ng nagtaas ng kamay and to all of our online participants who sent their questions and comments. Thank you very much. All right, and now, to cap off our discussion for today, let us call on Mr. Ernie online to share the discussion highlights. Sir Ernie, hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you for this wonderful discussion. Let me just simplify what was said. I think Dr. Kanan offers an approach, and his approach is that you identify cancer patients, they are given early diagnosis, they complete their treatment, and you have a high survival rate. And if you put it within that frame, if you do the math, Dr. Kannan's hospital probably would be more cost efficient and cost effective than a government hospital. That would be his model. How did he get to that? Essentially, because when he looked at his patients, initially he said 60% were not reporting a second time. Only 1/3 completed prescribed treatment. And what he wanted to do is how does he improve those indicators? And the next step he did was he created a pro-poor hospital model and operationalized it. And here he said, 80% of my patients are wage earners. And therefore, I have to work around those limitations so that his customization is really around addressing the needs of a poor cancer patient, not the needs of the politicians or the needs of industry, but the needs of the poor cancer patient. And what did he do? He said, I have to eliminate costs, eliminate unnecessary costs, but no compromise on quality. Treatment must be evidence-based, no charge differential, and maybe this is for Dr. Domingo. If you're going to have a PGH hospital for the poor, wherein some services are for the poor and some services are for the rich, Dr. Ravi says eventually you might have a situation wherein the services really are for pro-rich. The third one that he has done is that he assembled an inclusive ecosystem for health services. And still here, he worked more on improving lifestyle so that you reduce alcohol and tobacco. You focus on primary prevention, early detection, and you have measures to ensure patient compliance. And I think this is important to him, that if you are going to my hospital, I see to it that you finish the treatment and that your survival rate is going to be high. And I am going to address those barriers that happen that prevent you from finishing your treatment. The fourth journey that you said was transforming the problem and creating alternative approaches. And here I think this is where Domingo was saying that in fact it is a model. It is a working model wherein for that to be sustained, I have to go backward and see to it that there is early detection and early diagnosis. I have to do partnership with government, especially in relation to the government insurance. Later on, maybe you can, Dr. Kanan can get vouchers from the government that will support his work. He also has access to high-quality expertise being given by the other experts and hospitals around. He relies on public philanthropy, and essentially, he uses latest technology because to him, that is the great equalizer, and at the same time, that drives down the cost. Important to Kanan, and I think this is the gist of it, is his commitment to the core constituency of the poor. At the end of the day, the organizational financial sustainability would be in support of the core constituency. If it is against the core constituency, he would drop it. The other one that he is saying is that I have to take care of my staff. But between my core constituency and the demands of my staff, I will go to my core constituency. So his vision and mission is very clear. It's the core constituency that holds supreme, and he builds around the core constituency. And he's able to make a case out of it. The other feedback, Dr. Domingo says, well, health inequity is a problem in the Philippines, and we look forward to the universal health care and see how that can be operationalized. Dr. Susan Mercado says, well, it is ground up. It is getting the experience from the ground up, but down the line that has to merge with the formal system. Because the formal system, for it to be more proactive and for it to be more responsive, really has to be attached to the people working in the ground. And in terms of Dr. Ignacio, medicine is not just a biomedical, it is also social sciences. And if we are able to put in empathy and compassion there, then truly it becomes a more human organization. I think what Dr. Kanan has presented is that it is private sector working closely with government and working closely with the community. And that is the whole of society approach. But to me, he doesn't say it, but he is driven by metrics. And his metrics is, if there is a cancer patient that comes to my hospital, he has to get the best quality of care, number one. He has to finish treatment so that his survival rate becomes much higher, whether he be a poor patient or a rich patient. Thank you very much, Dr. Kanan, for showing us the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sir Ernie, for sharing with us those important highlights about today's discussion and also inspirational message from you also, sir. Maraming salamat po for sharing it to us. And now, before we close today's program, we would like to inform everyone of what the Ramon Magsaysay Award Foundation has in store for all of us on its 65th anniversary. You're all invited to watch the 65th Ramon Magsaysay Awards presentation ceremonies on November 11, 2023 at 4:30 p.m. Manila time. It will be streamed live on our Facebook and YouTube accounts. We would also like to thank the official media partners of the 65th Ramon Magsaysay Awards Festival season, NHK World Japan, and Associated Press. To be updated with all our activities, we invite everyone to follow the Ramon Magsaysay Award on social media. You will find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And to learn more and be updated about Dr. Ravi Kanan and CCHRC's work, you may follow their Facebook and X accounts. And lastly, please do not forget to evaluate today's program by scanning the QR code. You have it there on the screen, or by opening the link posted in the comment section in Facebook and YouTube. Okay, everybody, and now to formally end the 2023 RMTLI Lecture Series, the President of the Ramon Magsaysay Award Foundation will give her closing remarks. Ms. Susan?
Thank you, Tina. This has been an incredible afternoon, an incredible day, actually. We started the day talking about how women are involved in peace building, and then ending the day with a more hopeful wish for not just for the Philippines, but for India and the rest of the other nations listening to us today about how we can involve a more holistic way in looking at healthcare, both art and science. The science meaning let's put the internet, let's try and bring in as much technology as we can, but at the same time not to forget the art, which is about people, about compassion, and about making sure that we deal with people like we want to be dealt with as well. I know that one of our other Magsaysay awardees as well, Dr. Hattori, said that when I deal with my patients, I look at that person like my mother or my father, like family. And that's again what we're seeing here with Dr. Kanan and with our other panelists here who share in that thought. And I think that's a wonderful day to end the evening or the afternoon. So Tina, thank you for hosting. It was wonderful. Ernie Garilao, thank you so much. I'm so sorry that you were not able to come with us physically, but we know you're there and we felt your spirit. I want to thank, of course, Dr. Susie Mercado, of course, Magsaysay awardee Dr. Domingo, Dr. George, thank you so much for coming, and of course, the man of the hour, Dr. Ravi Kanan R. from India. Thank you. All right, that's it. Pansit, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today. Maraming salamat.
Okay, so let's have a photo opportunity with our speakers on stage. Of course, I don't want to miss this moment. Okay, so we have this special photo to be taken, may we ask our guests to stand here so that our audience will also be in the picture. The camera will be staying here. Okay, it's safer to move down the stage. Okay. So everybody stand up. Let's have this photo taken. Most likely you can grab this online. Okay, friends, let's compress.